What happened?
We was in an explosion. We was in the lobby and the third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
You're kidding
What was
me.
it like? What was it like?
Horrible.
It's like hell.
You don't want to know.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Was that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was
So
the.
it was planned probably?
Yeah, definitely a secondary explosion. Because we was inside waiting to go upstairs, and on the way upstairs, the whole fucking plane blew. And we just collapsed on everybody inside the lobby.
Similar to the first tower coming down, secondary?
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second it was terrible. Then there was a third one too after that one.
Third explosion after that?
That's right.
And you were
Everybody was inside the building, waiting to go upstairs, and they just let loose. Everything just let loose inside the building.
So what you told me is that there was a plane or whatever hit the building, then a secondary explosion.
It was like 3 explosions after that. We came in after the fire. We came when the fire was going on already. We was in the staging area inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. And they exploded. The whole lobby collapsed on the lobby inside.
And it was just mayhem after that?
Just man, everybody tried to make their way out.
Just trying to help all the brothers get out.
A lot of people was trapped inside and
I was
everything.
sitting in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, across from Brooklyn. We watched the first explosion. As we're watching the buildings, we saw a black, very large airplane fly right into the second building. It came out of the south, right in front of our eyes. Just, it was so surreal, like a movie set.
Second and third explosions also, right?
We were in the building for the third one. It collapsed. I was on this drive here for the other one.
People that understand. There may be more. Any one of these fucking buildings could blow up. This ain't done yet.
How does this?
This is on top of this. It couldn't be no worse than this. Couldn't be nothing no more worse than this. You're in the building trying to help people, and it's exploding on the inside the building. So I don't think it can get any worse than this.
I heard a big explosion. I didn't know what was going on, so I decided to look out my window. It's a building complex, so you can see the other side of the building. It started wanting to smoke. My neighbors came banging on my door telling me to get out. That I guess they was evacuating the building. And I couldn't get out. My door was jammed. Everything off my windowsill fell, and I guess the impact of the explosion jammed the door as well.
How loud was it?
It was extremely loud. I couldn't even explain it to you if I couldn't. It was just so loud that it woke me out of my sleep. That's how loud it was.
It woke
Loud
you up.
enough. Yes.
I saw a man, looks like your father, was it? Came up just a few minutes ago, embraced you.
Yes, he did, because he was so worried of the way that I called him. I was actually almost having an anxiety attack because I was crying and I didn't know what to do.
P6 to Manhattan, urgent. Number 2 has had a major explosion and what appears to be a complete collapse surrounding the entire area.
When we hit the 19th floor, something horrendous happened. It was like a bomb went off. We thought we were dead. The whole building shook. The door to the hallway into the hotel blew off like somebody had thrown it all over the place. We were thrown on the floor. The building was still shaking, and we're still hearing explosions going on everywhere. So we decided, let's get out of here.
Now, 20 years of my life in that building, I'm just going to jump into the story of what happened to me that day. I went to work late, and again, I really believe that there was a mission for me that day, because if I was there at the regular time, at 8 o'clock, I would have been at the top of the building, at Windows of the World, and I would have died. So I came in late, 8:30 in the morning. I'm on the basement. The building has 6 sub-levels of basement, B1, B2, B3, all the way down to B6, 6 sub-levels. On the B1 level, you have all the support companies for the company that dealt with the World Trade Center. Mine was ABM, American Building Maintenance. Now, that company actually have the structural contracts, has the painter contracts, they have the mechanical contracts. So our office was on the B1 level. As I was talking to a supervisor, at 8:46, we're like chit-chatting, and all of a sudden we hear, pa! Very strong, boom! An explosion so hard that pushed us upwards. Upwards. Now, 20 years in the building, remember that. And it came from the basement, between the B2 level and the B3 level. And at that moment, I thought it was the mechanical room where they have all the pumps and the generators for the building, that maybe a generator just blew up on the basement. Now, 20 years in the building, you know something that comes from the bottom and something that comes from the top. At that moment, everybody started screaming. And it was, the explosion was so hard that all the walls cracked, the false ceiling fell on top of us. The sprinkler system got activated. And when I went to verbalize that it was a generator, we hear, boom, all the way on the top. The impact of the plane on the top. 2 different events, 2 different times. Later on, I thought that they probably didn't synchronize it well. Because that came out on the investigation that probably this explosion was to weaken the base and the foundation of the building to be synchronized with the heat on the top, so you will fall automatically, which it didn't. Now, when that happened, screams everywhere. A person comes running into the office saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. His hands were extended, and his skin was pulled from under his armpits all the way to the top of the fingertips, and it was hanging on both hands. And I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a piece of clothing. And then I realized it was his skin, and I said, what happened? What happened? And when I look at his face, finally, he got missing pieces of his face.
I got an eyewitness who said there was an explosion on floor 7 8. That's tower 2.
Firefighter Richard Benesiskis, speaking of the South Tower, said there was just an explosion. It seemed like on television when they blow up these buildings. It seemed like it was going all the way around like a belt, all these explosions. Deputy Commissioner Thomas Fitzpatrick said it looked like sparkling around one specific layer of the building. My initial reaction was that this was exactly the way it looks when they show you these implosions on TV. A few witnesses spoke of horizontal ejections. Chief Frank Crothers said there was what appeared to be an explosion. It appeared at the very top, simultaneously from all 4 sides. Material shot out horizontally, and then there seemed to be a momentary delay before you could see the beginning of the collapse. This testimony is very important because the official theory says that the horizontal ejections were produced when the floors collapsed and pushed the materials out. So listen to firefighter James Curran, who said, I looked back and I heard like every floor went choo choo choo. I looked back and from the pressure everything was getting blown out of the floors before it actually collapsed. If all these firefighters and medical workers witnessed all these phenomena suggestive of controlled demolition, it might be wondered why they have not spoken out. Part of the answer is probably provided by Auxiliary Lieutenant Fireman Paul Isaac, having said that there were definitely bombs in those buildings. Isaac added that many other firemen know there were bombs in the buildings, but they're afraid for their jobs to admit it because the higher-ups forbid discussion of this fact. Isaac, for example, has more recently said, I know 9/11 was an inside job. The police know it's an inside job, and the firemen know it too. But you have not heard this on the nightly news. On the nightly news. On the nightly news.
I don't want to be involved in conspiracy theories. There are lots of them. They can go on. We can speculate on that forever. What we really need to know is how those buildings came down.
World Trade Center 7 collapsed because of fires fueled by office furnishings. It did not collapse from explosives or from fuel oil fires.
To undermine scientific integrity is to undermine our democracy.
This is what NIST has done, denied and ignored crucial evidence.
The American people absolutely need the truth of 9/11.
More than 1,500 architects and engineers and 12,000 others, including many scientists, have signed the petition calling for a scientific investigation of the destruction of the Twin Towers and World Trade Center Building 7. The report, issued by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, referred to as NIST, was not valid science.
They're talking about a single columnar collapse or failure that resulted in a total collapse of the building.
Building number 7 descended in free fall for the first 100 feet, which means that there was absolutely no resistance to the descent whatsoever.
So all of the columns really needed to be severed at the same time.
The symmetry is the smoking gun.
NIST has admitted it went into free fall for 8 stories.
You don't need to be an engineer or an architect to see what happened to those buildings.
Dus dit is controlled demolition. Zeker weten. Zeker weten.
What I saw, it was a classic implosion. The center of the core, the penthouse area, starts to move first, and then the building follows along with it.
NIST excluded the document from FEMA in Appendix C that documented the evidence of melting steel.
In an office fire, you cannot generate enough heat to melt steel.
There were these iron microspheres present in all of the dust samples. They needed to have been formed in extremely high temperatures.
All the characteristics of the microspheres, along with what I see in the attack of the beams that were actually found, tell me that thermite was involved in melting those steel beams.
In the dust, what we have found is a modern version of thermite, which we call nanothermite.
NIST concedes that they found no evidence for explosives. So then we asked them, well, did you look? And they said, no, we did not look for explosives or residues of explosives.
And in fact, the evidence is overwhelming that these red-grade crystals are very high-temperature incendiaries.
And we have watched as scientific integrity has been undermined and scientific research politicized in an effort to advance predetermined ideological agendas.
If this is a crime, I think everybody agrees it's a crime. Evidence was removed from the scene of the crime. You can't do science when you are deprived of the evidence and when your hypothesis is the least valid instead of the most likely. When the most likely hypothesis in the case of Building 7 wasn't even mentioned. This is not science.